Yvonne, welcome back
Thank
to
you
the
very
DoTheWork
much.
Podcast. We're going to do part 2. Part 1 was all about Reese, Lancashire Tag, and the amazing work that you did to raise over £20,000, of which you're going to be doing the walk again next year. But I wanted to take some time and make a separate episode for your journey, because your health and fitness journey has been an amazing one over the past 12 months or so, which we've just gone over that now. So I think you started here in June last year.
That's correct.
And you came to us on a 28-day program that we were running at the time, and you're still here.
Yes.
So in that time, it's just over 30 kilos that you've lost, which I think is around 5 stone, isn't it?
That's correct, yep.
We were talking earlier on how you use old school metrics and I use new stuff, so I work in kilos. But 5 stone, 30 kilos, pounds, 60 odd pounds, something like that. It's a lot of weight anyways. So let's go back to the start. Tell us a little bit about how you were feeling, what made you start, and I suppose the journey before the journey.
So I think life was almost, and again, it kind of, I guess, kind of fits in with Reese's journey. We was in a much better position. I found that, I was no longer fighting any systems. So suddenly I had not me time. I'm not going to say life's easy. I've got work full time. I've got a child with additional needs, but I certainly had a lot more time. It was almost like it had been consumed for so long fighting that I was not lost, but I suddenly had space, and I didn't like the person that was in the mirror. I was the person that, as you know, on the pictures in the early days when we took classes, I was the head at the back of the picture. I was just that person that had to be there but did not want to be on the pictures.
I have got a photo, by the way, which we will put on the screen, where you are at the back, but you're just sort of in the corner. And we'll put that photo on, and we'll put a more recent photo on so people can see the difference. You've basically lost like a third of your body weight to this point now of what you were.
Yes.
Which is amazing. So, but yeah, go on. So you're hiding at the back of photos.
So I was hiding, and again, I'd probably been sort of, I don't think I've not particularly been happy for years before that, but it was just that it was exhaustion. It was everything else that went with sort of the lifestyle that we had. And there was always a reason not to start it. I remember my friends sent me quite a while before I actually started. My friends sent me a link after we used to train together sort of in our late teens, early 20s, and I was in the gym all the time then. We trained really well together. And I remember sending a link saying, why don't you sort of look into this? That link happened to be one of your links that she'd found. And I kind of filled it in, and sent it off, as you'll probably remember. I think we had sort of some brief conversations. And again, I kind of, at that time, as much as I wanted to do it, I didn't have the energy. There was just something constantly to deal, some kind of battle to deal with. But then one thing I'll say is that you don't give up. So I was constantly getting updates. I was getting blogs from yourself, and I couldn't tell you. You'll probably know more than me, but I feel like it was probably a year of just kind of sat back, getting sort of the updates, getting the different courses, sort of thinking, I should do this, but then there was a reason almost not to do it. And then I don't know what happened. Like I said, I think some of it was the fact that that sort of fight, that battle had gone, and suddenly I did have time. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do it before, I just didn't have the energy on top of what else I was dealing with. And I remember seeing sort of the course come through, and it was like literally, it starts tomorrow. It was quite late at night, and I remember just thinking, if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it? Or what? I have no excuse. And I signed up, I think, on the sort of 12th hour, literally.
Yeah, so we, I can't remember when you first inquired. I'm not sure, so I'm not going to try and remember exactly. But I know we had a conversation on the phone and back and forth messages and stuff like that. But yeah, you joined as a result of an email being sent, I think. And it was probably one of the last emails that got sent out. And then I got a notification. I was like, that's Yvonne who I spoke to like a few months ago or whatever. I was like, oh, right. It was quite random for me, actually, because I think I hadn't spoke to you about that for a bit. But obviously you were at that moment in the place where you were like, okay, I'm ready now.
Yep. And I think that was it. It was just, it hit, like, I'd kind of, watched from afar. But as I say, there was just always something. I think when we spoke, he just started sort of high school and transitions, and life's difficult for a child like Reese. So it was almost like that gave me the reason not to do it. And then it's that question about failure, in the back of my mind. Could I have done it when he was starting high school? Was it that difficult to find the time? If I'm truthful, like, yes, I was exhausted. Yes, there was a lot going on. But I probably did have the time when we first spoke if I'd tried. But it was that thought of, yes, again, probably ADHD almost. Let's start something and sort of, and that's probably why I signed up. Looking back, it was that 12th hour. It was very random, and just I thought, if I don't do it, I'm not doing it. I don't like who I am. I don't like it on the pictures. I just need to do it. And it was very spontaneous for myself. My husband woke up in the morning and I was like, oh, by the way, I've just joined this and this is what I'm doing tonight. To which he was like, right, okay. That's probably quite normal for me, to be fair. He wakes up and I book flights to wherever. So
yeah, he's used to it.
He's very used to it.
So, well, sometimes that's what it takes, isn't it? You've just got to act on that impulse when it's there, because it is very difficult to start these things, and it can often be, I'd like to think here is less intimidating than a commercial gym environment, because you don't have to book in when there's a load of people there that are there for their own session, whereas coming here it's just people that are supposed to be here in a small group environment, so it's a little bit better. But yeah, for people who don't necessarily enjoy exercise, or at least at that moment in time because of how they feel or how they look or how unfit they are or whatever, it can be quite hard to commit to these things, can't it? So if you don't act on these impulses when they're there, then if not now, when? And then months and months could have gone by. So you did the 28 days, and then you stayed on after. You lost quite a little bit of weight in the first 28 days. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I
think it was about 1.5 stone.
Yeah, and then you pushed on, which is a lot in that space of time, to be honest with you. But you'd gone from not doing much in an exercise sense to completely changing everything within your lifestyle at the end of the day. And then shortly after that, you moved into a slightly different format in terms of when staying on board. And you find a way to fit exercise. I think that's the important theme here now. You find a way to fit exercise into your quite busy and challenging schedule.
I think so. I think a lot of this is down to sort of where, this gym yourself. Again, for myself, it's very easy to do that impulsive. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to do this. And that first month is always, for me, is always the easy month, because, I'm hyper-focused. It's exciting. It's you see the results. It becomes difficult, and this is where I usually fail, is when the results start to slow down, when that excitement's not there anymore, when it's just, it's almost has to become a routine, and that's where I would usually struggle. But for me, the part that kept me going was the fact that, if I didn't go to the gym, which is quite easy, I had a membership. In fact, it's still running at the moment at one of the big commercial gyms. If I put my name down for class and I cancel it, there's nobody going to question me. For me, it was the fact that when that weight loss started to slow down, when it becomes a routine, it was that text message that would fall into my inbox that I've not seen you for a little while. Is everything okay? That almost is that accountability. And I think that's what I need. If I could get away with it, it would have been quite easy to just kind of fizzle out and almost just disappear quietly. But it was the fact that I had that, I had to explain, not explain, that's not quite military, but it was almost that accountability that, is everything all right? I've not seen you for a little while. And it almost becomes like a guilt. But for me as well, it was the team. I started at the time when Hayley started, and it was almost sort of, I'll see you on this day. And it became an expectation that I would have to be there, because otherwise, people would be like, well, where have you been? And not in a bad way. It was in that supportive way. It was everybody coming together. In the early days, when you feel that you can't do it anymore, it was the support from the others in the group that had been coming that bit, that sort of much longer, the more experience. But it was the fact that he was never made to feel like the unfit, overweight one within the group. And it was never kind of questioned on ability. It was always sort of just encouragement. So that's kind of, I think, what kept me going when that, that initial sort of enthusiasm fizzles out. And then for me, it became, I think I remember kind of saying to you, obviously it's quite easy that life just kind of takes over. So I had the accountability. And then I remember sort of the Born Survivor and kind of just in conversation saying, well, if I'm going to do Born Survivor, the only way I'm going to do it is for charity. And then yourself, coming forward saying, we'll all do it for charity. So then it was almost, I had to come to the gym. I've got people now that are training for an event. I've signed up for this event. And ultimately, they're doing it almost for my charity, for what means a lot to me. So it wasn't just the accountability in the text message, it's now accountability of, I need to be fit enough, I need to do this. So that then sort of kept it going. Unfortunately, as we know, I wasn't able to do the Born Survivor. Through my own stupidity in a completely different kind of workout environment. As my husband said, one that I'm too old to do, but...
Let's just clarify what that is, because that sounds a little ominous.
Yes, so it's bungee fit.
Yeah.
So, my husband tells me that, what do you expect if you're going to stick yourself in a harness and start jumping? Yeah. And I did, unfortunately, get an impingement that medically I was under the hospital, I had to have a procedure, which meant that I did have to pull out of the Born Survivor. But it was the team around me. I was gutted. These people were raising money for charity that I'd requested, and now I wasn't taking part. And I think it just says a lot about the people here. Everyone was still really encouraging. Everyone, it meant something to them. I went and ended up being chief photographer. And
you did a great job, by the way.
Thank you.
It was a really good day. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Did you have to pay for Born Survivor photos and stuff when they come
exactly.
through?
Exactly, and they had, and to me it was almost like I was gutted, but it felt like I let everybody down, and it meant a lot afterwards. I know sort of one of your members came up to me and said, can I have a hug, because your pictures, your recordings is something that has confirmed to me that I've been able to do this. This was a challenge for me. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, and what you've captured is something that I've got those memories, and the people that you work with, they all was pushing it. They were trying to make, the ones taking part were trying to make as much money as they could for a cause that they didn't really know much about. And I think that kind of says a lot about sort of being a member here with yourself. It's the fact that, I kind of half mentioned it, you was like straight onto that. And again, the other members that you've got, just again, it was a charity they've never heard of. They didn't have to go out of their way, but they did, and I think that's sort of the importance, and that's what's kept me motivated, and that's why it's not fizzled out, is because it's just the whole team environment. And like I say, I'm very thankful, as you know, to yourself. The Born Survivor event, the Trail and Ale, none of that would have, Born Survivor just wouldn't have been without yourself. And the Trail and Ale definitely got a lot more exposure with some help from yourself getting... my husband was very excited, to say the least, when you got people to agree.
Yeah, glad to be of assistance there. I mean, this is the thing that people don't realise, is it opens up the opportunity for a lot more things for you to be able to do, be that with family or, in a lot of ways for people, just for yourself, like you said, in terms of, the other client who was really grateful to be able to prove to themselves that ultimately that they could do something like that. I think most people, and you probably walking in on the first day would have probably thought that you would never be able to, I'm presuming, to do something like that. And obviously you've come a long way. So as well as in the sort of, what would you say, performance sense, how else has it changed your life, losing your 30 kilos, 5 stone, whatever it works out at?
Just generally sort of the energy, they feel so much better. I'm not hiding away anymore on the pictures. And I think it's quite interesting. I know my mum mentioned something to me quite recent that I'd never really thought about, but I didn't have the confidence to be in the photographs. I didn't like that. And she said to me that she has a friend that's constantly taking pictures, but she said, I think it's lovely because when they're not around anymore, there's their children and their grandchildren have got memories. And I kind of thought, I don't have pictures of me with Reese, with my husband, because I'd avoided it for so long. And those memories that we've made, we haven't really been able to capture and have them to look back on because I avoided them. So I think, now, if we're at somewhere, I'm quite happy for someone to take a picture and we can put that into sort of the memory book as such, and it can be pulled out, as Reese grows up or whatever, as we get older, it's something that we can look back on. As I do feel it's, it's only now I think about it, but I do think it's quite sad that there's 13 years of memories of Reese's life that I don't have pictures of things that we've done because I avoided the camera. So yeah, I think, like I say, and just generally I have a lot more energy. I don't think I'd have probably done the Trail and Ale organising without the energy that I've got now. I do feel a lot better, and obviously that is ultimately because of it's the fitness, but it's also the change in diet as well that's done that for me.
Yeah, everything combined. Energy is a big one that a lot of people report on because it's so much harder to carry ultimately all that excess body fat around with you, just doing day-to-day stuff, going upstairs, getting in and out of the car, standing up, sitting down. I mean, all the things that just, like, imagine, I think I said to you on the way, like, imagine if I put, when it was like 10 kilos or 20 kilos, like you wear a rucksack now and carry that around with you, or carry a weighted vest, or wear a weighted vest with the weight that you've lost, and you would be exhausted at the end of the day, even though you're now much fitter than what you were then. Because it's hard to carry that around with you. So, you've sort of taken that off almost by losing that weight, and therefore you've got much more energy. And the photos is a big one, and I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people struggle with that. And it just saddens me sometimes to hear that people don't take that step and make that change. And I know there were a period of time where you didn't, right? But you made that decision on that impulse and you did do that. But there's so many people that don't, and they're continuing to live that life. And it's not just missing out on them occasions for them, but I think, like you said quite well, it's also for your kids and grandkids to see that as well, especially in the modern world where we're quite lucky now in the digital age where photos are easy to access and store, and we can document everything.
Yes.
Whereas like our grandparents, not so much. Photos are quite rare. Like it might be your grandma sending you a picture of an old black and white picture that she's got somewhere in the house, maybe for you to see like what your great granddad looked like or something. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's really important to be able to have that in your life as well. So yeah, no, I mean your effort's been, with all that's been going on as well, your effort's been amazing. In terms of the diet changes, let's touch on that. So obviously, you've used some extra support, extra help throughout your journey, if you will. So do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So, as you know, and again, I think it's very much once that weight loss started to slow down, I did, I was getting the messages, but it was, I've just got that mindset where I need to see results. I need to have that focus. And it was slowing down just naturally, as it would with anybody. I did do a lot of research, and ultimately I took the decision to use the weight loss injections alongside the training and alongside the diet. I think it took me a little while to confess to you. And it wasn't because I was ashamed of what I was doing. It was because I didn't want people to think that I was doing it for an easy option. I wasn't going to use them to just half my intake of food, but carry on sort of eating junk food as such, as I know can happen. It was just that aid. It was that motivation. It was that I've now got my fit. I'm training. I've improved my diet. It was just that little extra to sort of just to not keep motivation, even just to, I don't know, just to see the results. Impatient, maybe it is the fact.
Yeah,
that
you
impatient.
wanted to see the results at the rate that they started, I guess. And
yeah,
obviously my first view is always, as I said to you at the time, you never can't tell me anything. Like if I don't know, I can't help, and I don't know. There is no, and there was no judgment from me.
No.
I think there is a place for these things within the weight loss space, 100%. I don't think most people should be using them, but I do think there's a space. But what I think is important to talk about is what you do, like you said, alongside that. So you were already in the realm of training and exercising and starting to make some improvements with regards to your nutrition, which is the bit that most people miss. Most people start with that and then don't add the other stuff after, which usually results in people losing mostly muscle mass and not body fat, and health just generally taking a little bit of a nosedive, even though the scales are showing that you're losing weight. So as much as some people bash them, some people are all for them, I, like a lot of things in life, like to try and see both sides. Some people might say I sit on the fence with quite a lot of my viewpoints in life about a lot of things, but I like to try and just see both sides. And I think there is a space, and ultimately it's helped you on your journey get to where you want to be, and it's helped you lose 30 kilos in about 12 months. And you have been training alongside it. Yes. You have been looking after your protein intake alongside it, so that you're trying to hold on to as much muscle mass as possible, which is the goal in any fat loss journey. So I just think it's important to recognise that. And there's too many people that we've had conversations about who, just use them willy-nilly, or they'll get someone from the local beauty salon to sell it under the desk or whatever to them, and not do anything else with it. So I think that's the important piece, that you've probably done it, if you are going to use them as an aid or what have you, that you were already exercising and already eating well before.
I think for myself as well, what I used it for was almost to retrain the brain. So for so long, I was in the mindset that, if I have a meal, it's got to have, I wouldn't have sort of, I don't know, for instance, say chicken with some vegetables. I would feel the need that I have to put some kind of like potato with it. Or again, for my lunch, I need the bread, I need the sandwich. So for me, it was about, because I couldn't eat the same amount of food, it was, like I say, it was never about sort of almost going to sort of starvation or whatever. It was about retraining the brain, and that I actually don't need those alongside my food. I can quite happily have a meal and don't feel that I've missed out. So it was about sort of, because I'd sort of looked at it and I'd seen side effects, etc., which wasn't what I wanted from it. I knew that I had to prioritise my proteins ultimately. So it became just a case of the fact that with that injections, I was able to have, my chicken seasoned chicken with some asparagus or some sort of spinach. But I didn't feel the need. And again, I didn't want the sort of starchy foods with it. And it was just, I used it. I'm no longer on those, but I used it to kind of reset the mind, as opposed to sort of anything else. Like I say, it wasn't about just halving my intake of food. It was about making sure that I still had the nutrition, but I could kind of get out of that mindset. It's almost like what I'd been taught as a child. This is your veg and your potatoes, go on it.
You'd incorporated good habits whilst doing it, and you were conscious and aware of that, whereas most people aren't doing that bit. They're just eating, I don't know, a banana and a bag of crisps, and then that's that, and then the weight's coming off, but the weight is coming off, but you might not be getting healthier. You're probably losing a lot of muscle mass, which is a lot harder to build than it is to lose body fat. So you've done it the right way around, and you've done it under the right conditions and all of that, and it shows that ultimately there is a space for it if done in the right way, for the right person at the right time with the right mindset and all those things. So and that's why I sit on the fence with it. I have now 2 clients that use it as an aid. Now you're not. So most of my clients don't use it. Do you know what I mean? So it still is the rare. It's not like the done thing, but I have some exposure to it, and I can see how it can be beneficial for people who, like you say, want to. I suppose the term is get rid of the food noise. That's sort of what people say that they experience with it, and just call that hunger, like you say, so that you're not eating, not that you specifically, but the excess takeaways and kind of like the junk as such that we eat when we experience those. Hunger pains, if you will. So okay, let's fast forward now to kind of like where you're at now, and then what I want to find out is, so if you were in a position where you put it off for a while, you had a conversation, you made an inquiry, it's a common story. What would you say to someone that is either in your position of considering to inquire or putting it off?
When is the right time? Just do it. As I say, it's almost easy to come up with the excuses, but them excuses, that they're not going to help you feel better. They're not going to help you. You're not going to have that confidence on the photographs. You're still not going to have the energy. It's almost because you feel so exhausted. It's mentally, it's like an excuse not to do it because you're exhausted. But then that doesn't change unless you actually, you fill in that form, you sign up to that course. That's not going to change. You're still going to be exhausted. But like I say, for me, it was spontaneous, but absolutely no regrets. And I think for anybody, and somewhere like this is really special for people that don't have the confidence, that don't, they are, some people like yourself, I don't want to be that person that can't lift the same weights, or, goes to the gym and can't do the cardio class or keep up with a cardio class. But I think when you come here, you don't have that worry. Everybody, no matter how much you're struggling at that point, no matter how low your fitness is, everyone's there to encourage. So I think, if that's if you want and you feel that you need to get fit, then just do it.
Just do it. Just do the work. What about if someone says like, oh, well, I can't really justify the expense, or I can't really afford it? Did you go through that battle in your mind, or what would you say to someone? Obviously, there's going to be some people that, genuinely don't have a spare penny, and especially with the way the world is right now. However, I do believe also that people waste a lot of money on a lot of things that also makes their health worse, be that booze, be that takeaways. There was a conversation recently, I can't remember if we chatted about this or not, but
I think I've seen your post.
Yeah, there was a guy, like someone spent £37,000 in 4 years on takeaways, and the average order is 3 times a week. So people are spending a lot of money on these things. So taking into account that some people can't, and some people are wasting money on a lot of things and say they want to change, what would you say to those people?
I think, so for the ones that obviously generally can't, then that's a little bit different. But yeah, if you're buying the coffee daily down at Starbucks or Costa, or you're getting them takeaways and you want to change, then I don't think sort of money's really, like I say, it's not about sort of money and affordability. I think if you kind of look at it and you want that change, also you will find that you can afford it because you're not buying them takeaways, because you're not going and getting the daily coffees. That money that you're saving from that will very soon become part of your fitness journey, and ultimately you're going to feel better for it.
It's almost a double benefit, isn't it? It's like if you stop buying the takeaways and then invest in your health, well, you're not paying any more, because people do spend 100, 200, 300 pounds a month on takeaways and coffee and booze and whatever, and you're going to get healthier and actually feel better as a result, and there's no real difference in financial sense. But I always say, I think people see it as, it's kind of like the contactless, world that we live in now. It's like, beep, £5 coffee, beep, my details are saved on Just Eat, my normal order is saved on Just Eat, I just need to press reorder. It's so easy to do, and then that's like £30, £40 done. We don't think about it because it just comes out of our account, and then our account's zero every month, like, oh, I can't afford it, versus, hang on a minute, still a little mini audit of this, I'm spending 150, 200, 250 quid a month on shit.
Yes.
And that could easily pay for, whether it's me or a gym membership or somewhere else or whatever. I just think that's how people see it. They see a big payment rather than all the little transactions that they're making without thinking about it,
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. Is there anything else you want to add with regards to your journey?
No, I don't think
No,
so.
just from me, you've smashed it. It's been a pleasure to have you here, and hopefully you're here to stay.
Yes.
And I mean, we've done a workout before we've done this tonight, so you've done well.
Yes, that's why I'm rather sweaty.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for all of your efforts and for sharing your story.
Yeah, and like I say, thank you for all the support. Both in my journey in fitness and also in my charity fundraising. I couldn't really have come across sort of a better gym and a better team, so thank you.
My pleasure.